I was watching a video the other day with they were interviewing Joe Salatin. Joe Salatin is a renowned expert on food, farming, etc. On the economics of farming, the science of farming, etc. He speaks at a lot of conferences and things like that, and he was being interviewed. It was a good interview. I'm I'd like to hear more from him. Frankly, it was not long enough to cover all the things that I want to cover about food. But he started off by talking about how there was a man who wanted to sell his a neighbor who wanted to he was helping his neighbor. You can watch the video. I'll have it down below. But he was helping his neighbor, and he offered to buy some of the produce that he was helping his neighbor with. What, I can't remember. Maybe it was chickens, cows. I don't know. And the farmer who he was helping said, "Nope, can't do that. That's against the law." Okay, you can't sell to your neighbor. It's against the law. Okay, there's all kind of laws that we have, all kind of regulations that get into what once was sensible. And I mean, obviously we want to have safe food. People who are eating all around the world and not dying, and they're eating, and they have these markets where they got meat hanging up all over the place and everything, and they've been doing this for thousands of years because they know how to do it. They don't want to die. They don't want to kill their customers. So clearly, people have learned how to have safe food. There may be some things that we need to do to make sure people have safe food, but he's making the point that we've sort of gone too far. That's the point he's making. And he talks about how we as a society have come to view food as a mechanical thing, he says. So it's it's not something that's outside in your backyard or in the field behind your house or whatnot. It's something that you go and you pick up at the store. It's just, you buy your chicken the same way you buy your laundry detergent, the same way you buy your pots and pans. You just go to the store and you pick it up and you bring it home. And we depend on regulations to make sure these things are made fair and safely, right? But he points out that what's been going on in the country, there was he talked about the head of the inspection agency or whatnot, sort of bragging about how efficient their agency was at reviewing factories, packing factories, other kind of things. Okay, and he said one of the reasons the guy said they were efficient is because so many plants had shut down. Now this is problematic, and there are plenty of people who think that this is a scheme by somebody, a scheme by people within the government, a scheme by other big concerns, big companies, and the big food companies. Now, I'm not saying it is, but you can see where people would see that is what's going on, that there's somebody's influencing somebody in the government to pass certain laws so that they can benefit from it, so that the big guys benefit and the small guys, because of the scale, cannot keep up with it. They just can't. They can't run a business in their small scale doing the same thing that some other business does with much larger scale, plans. So, he points out that, and the problem is now, instead of you having a local meat packing company, when I was growing up, there was a meat packing place I passed every day going to school. It's just a mile or two from my house. Okay, I had a classmate who, they had a butcher. They were a butcher, They processed meat, little small family-owned thing. And I don't know if they're in the butchers in business anymore. I know the meat packing plant closed many years ago. We used to get hot dogs from there, etc. So, but it was a small plant, not a big plant. Now what we do, we take our cows, we grow them in Florida, we ship them out to the Midwest to feedlot. They feed them on grain in the feedlot. They bump them up with whatever drugs they need to keep them alive, especially since they're all packed in there together. And then they go get processed. And he points out that if you pay attention, you can notice that in many cases, a place that processes meat or vegetables or whatnot, they may, package sometimes in identical packaging. They just put a different label on it. Same package, different label for a different store, right? They brand it differently, but it's the same meat, the same vegetables coming from one place. And it goes all over the region, all over the country. So what happens is we have, I don't know if you've paid attention, but I've noticed over the last couple of years, we've had these fires at meat packing plants and things which seem suspicious. It's sort of odd that all of a sudden you had all these fires at meat packing plants, but maybe it's possible that they were just reported in a way, or looked at in a way that there are really no more on average than they were any other year. I don't know. I never studied that, so I can't have an opinion on it. But the point is that you have a fire, it burns down a meat packing plant. You have a this bird flu. You're going to have the bird flu. Some animal gets the bird flu, and the whole herd of cows or the building full of chickens or whatnot, they all have to be eliminated. And that affects our ability to have access to food because we don't have chickens in our backyard or a cow in our backyard anymore. They're all being shipped from somewhere. The other day I heard of somebody having like $100,000 worth of beef rustled off their land here locally. So, well, if we all had 2 or 3 cows in our backyard, it'd be harder to have $100,000 beef rustled from you. But again, you had to be a big concern to be able to be in business these days, pretty much. A lot of people keep cows on their land just to keep it at a zone as agricultural. That's a different deal. That's a different game. But because they're really holding the real estate, they're not really trying to make a living off of cows so much. Anyway, when these plants go down, then it affects whether or not we have access to food or if they have a disease. So you see it all the time, E. coli in lettuce or something. It was in grocery stores all over the place. And they have to recall the lettuce or whatever, or the carrots or whatever. So Salatin points out, as I said, that the head of this agency was talking about how efficient they were. And that's where he was talking about we view food as a mechanical thing. So these guys, they go in and they inspect in a mechanical way. That's the same way if you have somebody doing safety inspections for a car factory or some other kind of factory that makes something. That's what they're doing. They're the same, and they have the same mentality. And so it's not about. We've gotten to the point where we're not about trying to help people make a living and stay in business doing these things. It's about how can we do the most efficient review of the product. And if that means that we have to shut down a factory, a packing house or whatnot, because they don't have the right amount of this, that, or the other, or then so be it. And it doesn't matter that it costs maybe these factories to update themselves so much money that they can't afford to stay in business. Now, this reminds me of the old black and white movies, you know, back in the 30s. You'd see these movies of people people in factories, and that seemed to be something you would see you'll see quite often in older movies. Is this it's like a running of different scenes in factories, and people are working hard, and but it's very mechanical and mechanistic looking. It's not very much human looking, is it? Now, this sort of fits in with another video I saw where the guy is complaining about property taxes, and that's a good complaint. He had to go down to the courthouse and pay his taxes the other day because they had gone up like it was some ridiculous amount, at least $1,000 or something. It was a lot. And he says, I don't, the cows, the things that I produce on my farm didn't bring in an additional $1,000 or anything. Nothing. His income didn't go up off of this property. The assessment of the property went up. That doesn't seem very fair to him, and I appreciate the way he's seeing it. You live out in the country and you got one paved road coming towards your house. You probably have to take care of the drive coming up into your property. If it gets washed out, you've got to get out there with your own tractor and fix it. The road driving by your house is where everybody in the whole world from all over the nation might drive by. And yes, we all need to pay our fair share in taxes to help maintain infrastructure, to help maintain fire and police protection. But this guy that lives out in the middle of nowhere on his farm, possibly, what's his fire protection and police protection like? Is he getting the same level as you and I in maybe a suburban or urban area? And yet his property goes up, and his property is what he makes his income off of. So he's not making any more money. Now, of course, my property tax go up, and I'm not making any more money either. But so I appreciate that aspect. So he talks about this, and he talked about running into an elderly guy who had an old car, and I'll put his video down there too. He had an old truck. And he goes into the story about why this old man is driving this old truck. Now the man is he's in his 80s. His wife is sickly, and he had to go and take out a loan in order to pay. He took out $1,000 loan to pay the taxes on his property under threat of being taken from him. And he'd had this house since the 1960s. Now, he's on a fixed income at best, I presume. And if he didn't make a lot of money over the years, if he just sort of got by, not everybody makes a whole lot of money. Not everybody gets a whole lot of Social Security. Amen? So that's something you can't depend on. And hey, your Social Security sure as heck doesn't go up as fast as your property taxes does it? So there seems to be an injustice about this. Where are the justice warriors about this? All these justice warriors over the last few years calling for justice. Well, we don't hear them whooping and hollering about this, right? Because they're all on the side of you will own nothing and you will be happy. That's their side, see. So this man owns a little bit of something. He's trying to be happy, but they're trying to take it from him, essentially. I mean, that's the threat. Now, yes, we need to have police protection and fire protection. We need roads that don't have potholes in them. So we need to pay some taxes. Somebody takes care of this in our community. But the question is, to what extent do we need them? What else are we paying for that are not needed? That really are not needed. There's all kind of nice programs, nice programs that at one time our religious institutions took care of. And I've watched over my lifetime plenty of situations where there were programs that maybe something like the Kiwanis Club did, or that local churches did, that slowly were given over to some kind of quasi-governmental agency. And then these agencies go to the local county and city government and ask for funds, and they get funded, maybe not 100% of the funds, but they get funded somewhat from that. So my own personal preference is we need to get rid of the taxes and go back to letting these social institutions like social clubs, Kiwanis, Rotary, whatnot, Lions Club, go back to that. Would give them a real reason. Right now, I know, the Kiwanis Club can go out and raise money for a particular good deed, but it's not so important, is it? Because the taxpayers are also already giving money to all these kind of things. So, and certainly people maybe don't give their money to their attitude may be, I pay taxes, so I'm not giving a tithe at church. So in my personal opinion, these good deeds, these kind things should be an activity of the religious and social institutions, not of our government, who takes our money and spends it on things that we may not believe in, and may actually be not all that great, and may be pure out wasteful. But I'm going down a rabbit hole on that, or I diverge. But this guy on his farm, having to pay taxes. He's had his has a story about how he had a mobile home that was taken from him because he failed to pay his taxes years ago. He just was young. He didn't know any better and whatnot. So you can listen to his story about that. But he asked, who really owns your car? You had to pay taxes on it. Who owns your house? If you don't pay your taxes, it will be gone. Who really owns anything? Now, what the government does is it will put your, if you don't pay your taxes, property taxes, a lot of governments, they'll put put a lien against your house, and then people can essentially buy the lien. So the bank will buy your lien. You can buy your lien if you want to. I can buy your lien. Okay? Anybody can buy your lien, but for the most part, most of us don't know much about these lien sales and auctions that go on. And you might look into, check with Economic Ninja if you want to learn about that kind of thing. But the liens get sold, and then you have to pay for this lien situation to get out of the lien. And if you don't, they'll auction your house off. And look, back in 2008, I know people who walked away from their house. They bought their house and they walked away from it. They didn't pay their mortgage anymore. They just walked away from their house because it wasn't worth it to them to pay their taxes and to pay on their mortgage. And they probably lived in the house for months, and with the recession that's come along with the emergency medical situation we had over here the last few years, a few years ago. A lot of people, the government said you can't throw people out of their houses. So a lot of foreclosures didn't happen for a while. So these people have been living in their houses without paying anything, and they're about to lose, and they're going to have their house foreclosed on, and they're going to have liens. These liens are already against their house, I'm sure, and somebody's going to come along and buy them. And normally it's big companies and banks or things like that do that kind of thing. But anybody can do it. You can buy your neighbor's lien if you love your neighbor that lives next to you, and you can hold it, and in kindness let your neighbor pay you back one day when they're able to do so. That's your gamble. But it's something that can happen. So, you know, potential good things could happen through the lien process, but normally people just lose their houses, or at least have to pay a chunk of money, pay back the lien and penalties and stuff like that. Anyway, enough on that. This affects farmers. This affects our food, and I thought it'd be worth sharing and having you think about these things. Check out the videos below, and be kind to your neighbor. Have a good day.